If you've ever felt too small, too unqualified, or too overlooked, this one's for you. Today we're digging into 4 biblical underdogs who overcame the odds and outsmarted the world, and how Proverbs 30 quietly reveals the secret behind their victories. They didn't have power, they didn't have status, they didn't have the crowd's approval, but they had something the world couldn't understand: wisdom, courage, God. Proverbs 30:25 says, "Ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up their food in the summer." Think of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, forgotten in prison, a foreigner in Egypt. But by the time famine hit the land, he had already prepared, not just for himself, but for an entire nation. He was just like the ant, small, underestimated, but wise enough to see ahead and act. In a world that prizes instant gratification, the ant reminds us of the power of foresight and planning, especially among those with limited resources. This speaks to that inner voice that says, "I want to measure up with my peers." But God says, "Store now. Delay the gratification. Enjoy yourself later." It challenges the idea that knowledge equals power. Instead, it says, applied wisdom, often in silence, is the true strength that shapes destiny. Next, in Proverbs 30:26, the rock badgers are a people not mighty, yet they make their homes in the cliffs. They don't fight like lions, they hide in strongholds. And that's Queen Esther, a Jewish girl in exile, orphaned, unqualified, unseen. But she didn't rush into battle. She hid in God's wisdom, in fasting and prayer. She didn't fight with swords. She used her voice, her favor, her moment, and she saved a nation. When you know where your strength comes from, you don't need to shout, you just need to show up, like Esther did. The badger teaches us, strength isn't always in muscle, but in where you root your life. Are you building on stone or sand? Proverbs 30:27 says, "The locusts have no king, yet all of them march in rank. No leader, no commander, yet complete unity." And that's David before he became king, running from Saul, hiding in caves, surrounded by outcasts. But he built an army from broken men. They didn't need a crown to walk in purpose. They followed vision, not title. You don't need a throne to move like a king. You just need God's anointing. David had no army backing him, but he had the heart of a lion and the obedience of a servant. That's what made him dangerous. The locusts raise a deep truth. Power without hierarchy is possible when purpose aligns people. Leadership isn't always about position. It's about action. Verse 28. "The lizard you can take in your hands, yet it is in kings' palaces." Something so simple, ending up in royal places. And I think of the woman with the alabaster jar. She wasn't invited, she wasn't respected, but she walked into a Pharisee's house, a palace of religious pride, and broke open her worship at Jesus' feet. No one saw her coming, but heaven never forgot her act. Jesus said, "Wherever the gospel is preached, her story will be told." You may be small, but when you move with bold love, you enter rooms no one thought you belonged in. Daniel reveals how faithfulness can break ceilings, even in corrupt systems, even when you're the outsider, misunderstood, labeled. Your identity in God positions you for purpose. The lizard reminds us, wisdom is subversive. The fragile can dwell among the powerful, not by force, but by quiet persistence. Each of these underdogs had one thing in common. They didn't rely on strength, they relied on wisdom. And Proverbs 30 tells us, that's what makes the weak exceedingly wise. You may feel small, unqualified, out of place, but God isn't looking for the biggest, the loudest, or the strongest. He's looking for the wisest, those who are willing to listen, obey, and trust. Your story is not over. Your size doesn't disqualify you. In fact, it may just be the secret weapon God uses to outsmart the world. Drop the word underdog in the comments if you're choosing faith over fear today. And don't forget to like this video. It helps more people hear this message. Subscribe to The Light and the Breath for weekly encouragement, biblical wisdom, and practical steps for overcoming the odds. Because remember, the world celebrates the mighty, but God elevates the wise. And in His hands, Underdogs always win.